Hi, terrific third graders. We are going to get to work on math again today, and I hope you're so excited. So let's get started. Here is what we are going to work on today. Today we are going, we are going to compare and order whole numbers up to 100,000 and represent comparison using the symbols greater than, less than, or equal to. How are we going to do this? Well, we're going to review important vocabulary. We're going to represent numbers with place value discs. So if you remember last week, we did this. We're going to compare numbers using greater than, less than, or equal to symbols. We are going to also order numbers. And then you are going to practice representing, comparing, and ordering numbers. Why are we going to do this? Well, it's an important thing to know so we know how to compare and order numbers so you know which number is greater or less than another number. So let's get started. Here is some important vocabulary that we are going to talk about today. The first one we're going to talk about is greater than. And this symbol right here represents greater than. So the larger amount is compared to another amount. So in this example, 8 is greater than 4. Oops, excuse me, sorry. Maybe, here we go. All right, the next one we're going to look at is less than. We are comparing the number 4 to the number 8. And whenever you use the less than symbol, it's whenever you are comparing the smaller number to another amount. So 4 is less than 8. The other one that it could be would be equal. Whenever something is equal, you have the same amount. So the number of pears is equal to this number of apples. Today, we are really going to focus on how to compare, but you're also going to order. So let's go ahead and get started. First thing we are going to do is we are going to look at our two numbers. So we have the number 2,413. We are going to compare it to the number 2,431. The first thing we're going to do is we are going to use our place value discs. Now remember, place value discs are just like what we would use a place value base 10 block, but instead of it being the actual picture, it is just an object and then it has the place value name. And you will use that many of them to build your number. So the first one we have is our 100,000, and we have 10,000, 1,000, 100, 10, 1. Well, I have my place value chart here, so that's going to help me with how many of each place value disc I'm going to need. You will also see that I have this screen split into two. I'm going to build one number on the left side, and I'm going to build the other number on the right-hand side. Then at the bottom where I have my box down here, that's where I'm going to actually type in my inequality statement so that I am able to see it. Now, you will see I'm going to type it two different ways, and I'm going to expect you to do the same thing. So let's first build our number with our place value discs. So here is what it would look like. I'm going to scoop myself off the screen for just a minute. So I have 2,413. I have two of my thousands. I have 4 hundreds. I have 1 10, and I have 3 ones. And I also am going to compare that to 2,000s, 4 hundreds, 3 10s, and 1 1. Now down here, you're able to see I've started typing the inequality. So I'm going to come out of present mode for a minute, and we're going to actually fill in our inequality statement. So I am going to look at this part down here at the bottom. So 2,413, here's that first number, and I want to compare it to 2,431. Well, when I'm comparing, I'm going to see what is the same and what is different, and then I'm going to figure out which number is bigger or smaller. So one thing that you are able to do after you have built your place value disc is you can actually cross off the numbers that are the same, going one place value at a time. So I'm going to start at my biggest place value. And for this example, that is going to be my thousands place. So I'm going to get a line, and I'm going to cross off the ones that are the same. So I have 2,000 and 2,000. So I'm going to cross off this 1,000, And I'm going to make it nice and dark so we can actually see it. So there is 1,000, and I'm going to get rid of 1,000 on this side. And then I'm going to do the same thing. Oh, I took my 1,000 with it. So let's go back for just a second. And I want this line. Don't group everything. I'm going to come back over here, maybe. Oh, there are my lines. And I'm going to cross off this 1,000. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to get rid of this 1,000. And again, I'm going to get rid of this 1,000. Then I'm going to go to my next place value. So now I'm going to go to my hundreds. Well, I have a 4 and I have a 4. Well, those are equal, so that doesn't help me figure out which number is bigger or smaller yet. So I'm going to cross off my hundreds. So I'm going to copy and I'm going to paste, and I'm actually going to get rid of all of these hundreds. Oops. Try again. So I'm getting rid of all of these different hundreds because they are the same. And I'm trying to figure out where my place value gets different. So now I'm going to move my tens place. Well, I have a 1 and I have a 3. So that's going to be very helpful. So here's 1, 10. And I also have a 10 over here. So I'm going to actually go ahead and cross off. Oops, I forgot to paste. Paste, there we go. And let's paste one more. Now I'm able to see that I only have 1s left over here, but on this side, you'll notice that I have 2 10s and 1 1. So that means that this side is going to be my greater side. So that means that 2,431 is greater than 2,413. So let's look at our inequality statements. The first one I wrote was 2,413. That's this side. So I want you to think about it. Is this side greater than or less than this side? That's right. It's less than. So I'm actually going to type in my less than symbol. But you'll notice I also have it written over here again. Now this time it's opposite because it's important to figure out both ways. So we said 2,413 is less than 2,431, but I also could say that 2,431 is greater than 2,413. So I'm going to type in my greater than sign. And for some reason, it wanted to get a little smaller, so I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. Let's see what's going on. There we go. So you can see that I used my place value discs to build my number. I crossed off the ones that were the same whenever I started at my biggest place value. So for this one, I started at the thousands place. After I did that, I was able to determine which number was greater. We said that 2,431 was greater. And then I actually wrote my inequality. Now remember, I wrote it both ways. I wrote it looking at from the left to the right, but I also looked at it from the right to the left, and I wrote both of them down. So let's go ahead and look at another example. So here is our next example. It's a little bit harder because we have another place value involved. So we are going to compare the number 11,234 compared to 12,345. So the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to build these numbers with our place value discs. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. here you are able to see that. So I'm going to get rid of my camera just for a little bit. You're able to see that I have 1 10,000. Here it is in yellow. I have 1,000. Here it is in green. I have 200s. There they are. I have 3 10s. And then I have 4 1s. I'm also going to build the other number, 12,345. So here's my 1 10,000. Here are my 2,000s. Here are my 300s, my 4 10s, and my 5 1s. Now again, I'm going to compare starting at my greatest place value. And I'm going to cross off things that are the same until I find something that is different that's going to help me determine if a number is greater or less than the other number. So I'm going to once again come out of present mode. I'm going to make my screen a little bit, not smaller, bigger. And then I'm going to go again and I'm going to get a line. I'm going to start at my 10,000s place. So I have 1 10,000 on this side and I have 1 10,000 on this side. Well, that's great, except for that doesn't help me decide which number is bigger. So I'm going to use my line and I'm going to cross off that 10,000. And again, I'm going to make it nice and dark and nice and big so we can see it. And I'm going to copy it and I'm going to create another one and I'm going to cross off this 10,000. My 10,000s are taken care of, so now I'm going to move to my thousands. Well, you'll notice that this one has 1,000, here it is right here, and that this number has 2,000s. So I'm going to start by crossing off something that is the same. So I know I can at least cross off one of my thousands because they both have at least one. So there's 1,000 and I crossed it off. And I'm going to do the same to the other side. So now I've crossed off the thousands, but I still have 1,000 over here, but I no longer have any thousands over here. And that's where I'm able to stop because I know that 1,000 is going to be bigger than any of these other things that are here because I also have hundreds, tens, and ones on this side as well. So I am able to see that this number, 12,345, is greater than 11,234. Now, again, I'm going to write my inequality statement, and I'm going to write it 2 different ways. So the first one I'm going to do is going from left to right. So I'm going to say that 11,234 is greater than or less than? That's right, it is less than. So 11,234 is less than 12,345. But remember, I'm also going to do it the opposite way. So I'm going to go from right to left. So I'm going to say that 12,345 is greater than 11,234. Now, whenever I am comparing, that is what I'm going to do. Now, we're about to make it a little bit harder, and we are going to actually start to order numbers. So when we order numbers, instead of just having 2 numbers, we are going to have 3. So I'm going to come back into present mode. And I am going to show you what it looks like. So now you can see we have 3 numbers that we are going to order. When we are ordering numbers, we are actually just comparing them, but we're going a couple more numbers at a time instead of just 2 numbers at a time. So the first thing we're going to do again is we're going to use our place value discs and we're going to build our numbers so we can actually see the visual. So let's go ahead and do that. So the first number we have is 3,124. Our next number is 2,212. The number after that is 4,212. So I'm going to build them with my place value discs. So here is what it looks like. I'm going to scoot myself out of this shot for a little bit and so we can look at it. So we have 3,124. We have 2,212. And we have 4,212. Not and, don't say and is for decimals, which is next year. So let me say that again. 4,212. What we are going to do is we are going to figure out how to put them in order from least to greatest. And then we are also going to put them in order from greatest to least. So just like we did when we were comparing numbers, we are going to cross out the digits that are the same in the same place value so that we are able to decide who is greater and who is smaller. So I'm going to come out of present mode for a little bit. And again, I'm going to get a line. And I'm going to start at my thousands place. So I have a 3,000, 2,000, and a 4,000. So I have to decide which one is actually the smallest one. So let's think about that. Here I have 3,000, I have 2,000, and I have 4,000. So which one, if we're going from greatest to least, so let's put that first. I'm sorry, least to greatest. I want you to think about what does least to greatest mean? If you said least to greatest means that you're going to go from smallest to biggest, you are correct. So I'm going to start with my smallest number. So let's think about that. Is 3, 2, or 1 or 4 my smallest amount? That's right. 2 is the smallest. So that means that this number is going to be the smallest number. So I'm going to write it down first. So I'm going to say 2,212 is less than, and I'm going to figure out what my next one is. So now I have 3,000 and I have 4,000. Well, if I'm going from least to greatest, I want to know which one's smaller. So are 3,000 or 4,000 smaller? That's right, 3,000 is smaller. So I'm going to write my next number, which is 3,124. And I'm going to write it right here. 3,124 is less than, and then I have to look at my final number. Well, my last number I have is 4,000, and it's actually 4,212. So I'm going to write that down right here, 4,212. So that's how I would put it in order from least to greatest. But I also have to be able to say in order from greatest to least. So if I'm going to go in order from greatest to least, this time I want to try to figure out which number is greatest. So which one is the biggest number? So tell me out loud, which one is the biggest number? 3,000, 2,000, or 4,000? That's right, 4,000. So I'm going to write this number right here. So I'm going to start with 4,212. And I'm going to say that it is greater than. So then let's look at the next ones. I have 3,000 and I have 2,000. So if I look at my place value discs, here's my 3,000, here's my 2,000. Well, which one has more? That's right, my 3,000. So I'm going to say that 3,124 is greater than, and then I'm going to look at my last number because it's the last one that I have. So then I have 2,000. So 2,212. So I'm going to say 2,212. So I'm going to come back into present mode. And we are able to see the place value discs, we are able to see our place value table, and we are able to see both of our inequality statements. So let's try another example. This time the numbers look very, very similar. So I have 2,314, 2,315, 2,312. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use my place value discs, and I'm going to model my numbers. I have 3 different spaces for each of my numbers. So I'm going to go ahead and model them with my place value discs. Here you are able to see I have 2,000, 2,000, 2,000, 300, 300, 300, 110, 110, 110, 4 ones, 5 ones, 2 ones. So we're about to write our inequality statements. And before we do, I want you to look at these numbers and I want you to decide which number is the smallest. While you're thinking about that, I'm going to go out of present mode. So which number is smallest? So we are going to go from least to greatest. So which number was the smallest? Well, if you think about when we ordered, we are able to cross off the things, when we compared, you're able to cross off the things that are similar. So I have 2,000 in all of my spots. So I'm going to cross those off because really they're not helping me very much. So I'm going to get rid of them. So I crossed that one off, crossed that one off, and I crossed those off. Now I'm going to look at my hundreds, 300s, 300s, 300s. Well, again, that doesn't help me very much, so I'm actually going to go ahead and cross all of them off. So there goes those 300s, there are those 300s, and there are those 300s. Now I'm going to look at my tens place. I have 110, 110, 110. Again, they're all the same number, so that doesn't help me, so I'm going to go ahead and cross them off. Oops. If I can grab my line, I'm going to. There we go. And I'm going to cross this one off. And I'm going to cross this one off. So now I'm left with my ones place. I have 4 ones, I have 5 ones, and I have 2 ones. So I want you to think which one is the smallest amount of ones. That's right, the 2 ones. So I'm going to come back to my place value chart. Which one number has 2 ones? That's right, that's this guy right here. It's my very last number. So that is my least, that's my smallest number. So I'm going to type that first. So 2,312 is less than, so then I'm going to look at my next one. So I'm done with him. I don't want to look at him anymore. So then I have 4 ones and I have 5 ones. Well, which number is smaller, 4 ones or 5 ones? That's right, 4 ones. So I'm going to look at this number right here. So 2,314. So I'm going to write that one down next. 2,314 is less than, and then I only have one number left. Well, it's 2,315. So I'm going to write that 2,315. But like I said earlier, we're going to write it both ways. So now I'm going to write it from greatest to least. Oops, I got that backwards. There we go. So again, I'm going to look at my numbers starting with my place value. So I'm still going to look at my thousands. Well, my thousands are still the same, 2, 2, and 2. I have 2,000, 2,000, 2,000. That doesn't help me very much, so I crossed them off. 300, 300, 300. They're all the same. 300, 300, 300. I'm going to cross them off. 110, 110, 110. Still the same. 110, 110, 110. I'm going to cross those off. So now I get to my ones place. 1, 2, 3, 4 ones, 5 ones, 2 ones. Well, I want to know which one is greatest. So I'm going to look at this ones place. Well, I see that my 5 is the greatest. So that means that this is going to be my first number I'm going to write. So 2,315. Oops. 2,315 is greater than, and then I'm going to go to my next number. So it is greater than, so now I'm left with 4 ones and 2 ones. Which number is bigger, 4 or 2? That's right, 4. So then I'm going to find the one that has the 4 in the ones place right here, and I'm going to write this number down. 2,300, oops. Under the right spot, there we go. 2,314 is greater than, and then I have my last number, which had the 2 in the ones place, which is 2,312. Now I'm able to see that I was able to order these numbers from least to greatest, from smallest to biggest, and also from greatest to least, from biggest to smallest. So if I come back into present mode, I'm able to see all of that information. There we go. There I am. So here is what we talked about today. We talked about how to compare and order using whole numbers up to 100,000 and representing comparisons using the symbols greater than, less than, or equal to. We reviewed important vocabulary. We represented numbers with place value discs. We compared numbers using the greater than, less than, or equal to symbols. We ordered numbers, and now it's going to be your turn. You're going to practice representing, comparing, and ordering numbers. Why did we do this? Well, it's important to know how to compare and order numbers so you know which number is greater or less than another number. So here is what you are going to do. You are going to order and compare different numbers. You're going to make sure to draw out each number with place value discs, and you are going to write each statement at least 2 different ways. So let's look at an example of what I would like you to do. So let's come back to the first page, and we're going to go back into present mode. You are going to get a paper that looks like this. Now you will notice that our place value discs no longer have the entire name written out because it takes a lot of time to write it out, which you could do, but you also can abbreviate. So if we were using 100,000, we're just going to say HTH. If it's 10,000, we're going to say TH. For 1,000, we're going to say TH. 100, we're going to say H. 10, we're going to say T. 1, we're going to say O. So just like we did in the examples, we are going to put the numbers in a place value table. We are going to write each number. After we do that, we are going to actually model the number with our place value discs so you're able to compare them. So I'm going to come out of present mode again. Oops, that's the next one. And down here, I am going to compare my 2 numbers. So I have 1,432, and I'm going to compare that to 1,423. Now remember, I'm able to compare that because I'm going to go place value by place value until I find something that is different. So we're going to first figure out where it gets different. So I'm going to use my line. And I have 1,000 and 1,000. Well, 1,000 and 1,000 means that those are equal, so I'm going to cross them off for now. So I'm going to cross this off. I'm going to make it nice and dark and nice and big. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. If I do it to one side, I have to do it to the other side. Well, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 hundreds on this side and 1, 2, 3, 4 hundreds on this side. Well, that means that they are the same, which doesn't really help me right now. So I'm going to cross them off. Again, I'm going to make it a little bit darker and a little bit bigger. And if I do it to one side, then I have to do it, that's right, to the other side. So now I have 1, 2, 3 tens and 1, 2 tens. Well, that means that those are different. So thinking about that, is 3 tens or 2 tens bigger? That's right, 3 tens are bigger. So that means that this number, 1,432, is greater than 1,423. So I'm going to write that down. 1,432, oops, maybe. There we go. Is greater than 1,423. But just like we did in the other examples, we have to write it both ways. So I just said that this number was greater than this number. I also could say that 1,423 is less than 1,432. So I'm actually going to write that also. 1,423 is less than 1,432. So that's what you're going to do on your examples where you have to compare. You are also going to have to do a couple of examples where you are going to have to order. So remember, when you order, that means you have more than 2 numbers and you are trying to decide if you're going to put them in order from least to greatest, smallest to biggest, or greatest to least, biggest to smallest. Again, you're going to have your numbers in your place value chart, and you are going to model the numbers with the place value discs. Remember, again, if it's for the 100,000, you're going to say HTH. If it's the 10,000, you're going to say TTH. For 1,000, you're going to say TH. 100, you're going to say H. 10, you're going to say T. 1s, you're going to say O. And you're going to actually model each number. So let's go ahead and model all these numbers. So I'm going to model 12,345, 12,342, 12,432. So when I do that, I'm able to look at all of my numbers. So I'm able to see that I have 1 10,000, 1 10,000, 1 10,000. And why did I start with my 10,000s place? That's right, because it's the first number, it's the first place that has a digit. So I'm going to start there. So I'm going to go ahead and come out of present mode so I'm able to cross things off so I can see where things get different. So I'm going to use my line again, and I'm going to cross off my 10,000s because they are the same. I'm trying to figure out where they get different. And then once I figure that out, I can just start deciding which number is greater and which number is less. So now I'm going to look at my thousands place because that's my next place if I'm going from left to right. So then I have 2,000s, 2,000s, 2,000s. Well, that's great, but they are all the same, so that still doesn't really help me. So I'm going to go ahead and cross them off. So I cross those off. To do it to one, I have to keep going, so I'm going to cross those off. And again, I'm going to cross those off. Now I'm going to look at my next place, which is my hundreds place. So I have 300s, 300s, 400s. So now I can see that this is different. So if I wanted to, I could start with greatest to least. So if I do that, I'm going to go ahead and type that in, greatest to least. Well, I just decided which number was my greatest because it has the biggest number of hundreds. So my first number is 12,432. So 12,432 is greater than. So now I'm going to come look at these two numbers. Well, these two numbers have the same number of hundreds, 300 and 300. So that doesn't really help me. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cross them off. And again, I'm going to make it nice and dark so that we can see it. And I'm going to cross these off. I come to my tens, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, that's the same number. So again, that doesn't really help me very much to decide which number is bigger. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cross them off. So there go all those tens. And there go all of these tens. So now I'm left with my ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2. Well, which one's bigger? Which one has more ones? That's right. This number has more ones because I've gotten rid of all of my other place value numbers. So this is all I'm left with is my ones. So I'm going to say that my next greatest number, whoops, here we go, is 12,345. And I'm going to say that it is greater than, and then I'm going to come to my last number, which was 12,342. Now that was how I was able to do everything from greatest to least, but I'm also able to do the same thing with least to greatest. So again, I'm going to compare my numbers and I'm going to figure out where they change. Oops, maybe, there it goes. So I still have my 10,000s crossed off because they all still have 1 10,000, which doesn't really help me. So those are crossed off. And I have my thousands crossed off because they all have 2 2,000s each, and that doesn't really help me. So then I'm coming back to my hundreds. I have 300, 300, 400. Well, I'm trying to figure out which number is the smallest number. So I have 300s and 300s. That doesn't really help me because they're the same. So I'm going to go ahead and cross those off. So I can try to figure out where they changed. So there's my hundreds. I'm crossing them off. And I'm only going to do it to the ones that have 300. So I'm going to do it to this one and this one. This one has 400, so I'm going to leave it alone because that means it's bigger. So I know it's my greatest number. But I mean, I'm going from least to greatest, so I'm going to leave this one alone for now. So now I'm going to come to my tens. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Those both have 4 tens. So I'm going to go ahead and cross those off. Let's see if I'm able to grab him. There we go. I'm going to not do that. I'm going to just make a new line. So I'm going to cross these off. And if I do it to one, I have to do it to the other. And now I'm able to see. Now I'm at my ones. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ones and 1, 2 ones. Well, I'm going from least to greatest, smallest to biggest. So which one's my smallest amount? 2 or 5? That's right, 2. So I'm going to write 12,342 because there was my 2 ones that we said that was smallest is less than. Well, I know that this is my next smallest number because this has more hundreds. This has 300s, this has 400s. So I know that 300s is smaller. So I'm going to say 12,345 is less than. And then finally, I'm going to have my biggest number, which is 12,432. So in a moment, you are going to get your paper and you are going to do the same thing. You are going to order 2 sets of numbers and you are going to compare 2 sets of numbers. If you have any questions, please ask your teacher.